What do we really know about the Islamic Republic of Iran, aside from a Cold War rhetoric of politicians from both sides, each accusing the other of evil? I know it has to be more complex than this. It's taken a whole year of bureaucratic wrangling to film Inside Iran. But I've finally been given the chance to see Tehran with my own eyes and to choose my own path. This is my film about the people of Tehran, their day-to-day struggles and their hopes for the future. Tehran was where the Islamic Revolution was born in 1979. And from that moment on, we in the West have perceived the city as being an alien, austere and hostile place. I've been here once before, but as a news reporter. And yes, I filmed the angry demonstrations. I've heard the uncompromising statements of officials. But when I wasn't compiling my 2-minute TV news reports, there was something else about being in Tehran that got under my skin. I liked it. There's an energy and a vitality to this place that's completely different from the images that we usually have of it. And that's why I wanted to return. Not to interview politicians. I want to speak to those people we rarely hear about in the West. I want to discover from ordinary Iranians what it's really like to live, work and worship in one of the least understood cities in the world. Thousands of people pour into Tehran every day, swelling this vibrant and exciting city, which already has a population of 12 million. And you see the changes in the city as you travel up through Tehran, both in attitude and in altitude as you head towards the Alborz Mountains. And there's a main artery that runs this course. It's one of the longest roads in the world. It runs for at least 20 kilometers, and its name is Vali Asr Street. What's in a name? Well, in this city, everything. Take Vali Asr Street, for example. It's been through several name changes. It began as Pahlavi Street, after the royal dynasty which ruled Iran during the 20th century. When they were overthrown, it was renamed to Mossadegh Street, after the secular, democratically elected prime minister who was overthrown in a CIA-backed coup. Years after the Islamic Revolution, its name was changed again to Vali Asr Street, which means the image of the Imam, after the 12th or hidden Imam revered by Shia Muslims. So there you have it, 3 name changes that cover the different transitions this city has been through in the 20th century: the royal, the secular, and the religious. My hotel is in the center of the old town between Vali Asr Street and Palestine Square, and within walking distance of my first port of call. I've just veered off Vali Asr Street and I'm in this neighborhood called Jumhuriya, which is supposedly a middle-class district right in the center of town. Now I'm trying to find an old Iranian friend of mine, a lovely guy, who I used to know when he lived in the UK. But he disappeared suddenly and I haven't seen him for 4 years. But I managed to get a hold of him and I'm going to go see him. And I understand he's working as a music journalist in Tehran. Hi, Ali Reza.
Hi.
It's Rageh.
Hi, Rageh.
How are you doing?
How are you doing?
Good. Hey, Rageh. How are you? Long time no see. Don't worry about that. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, long time no see.
You look exactly the same.
I can't believe you're here. It's not possible.
Thanks. How are you?
No way.
What's it been like coming back?
Actually, I came back because my father died and my mom, she needed me, and I left my job, my friends and my girlfriend and everybody, and I wanted to be here and help my mom to get out of the situation which she was in it, and it was deep shit, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
When I'm here for just a few weeks and I'm gonna try and discover something about the life of this city and its people.
Just walk with me to the streets of center of city, you know, and see how many people going to shop, you know. Lots of money in this country, lots and lots of money, but is not shared in a fair way. Some people so poor, so they are disappointed, aimless, and they crash themselves to the wall. And some people so rich, but no stability, and especially in young generation between 20 to 35, drug addict, and things like that is going on. Yeah. They have money, they have no use for it. They have huge, beautiful cars. There is no road to drive that fast as they want, you know. They have huge houses, but they not able to use it as the way they want it, you know. And things like that is going on from the downtown to uptown for poor people in different level, for rich people. So they sit in their cars and they just don't think what they do.
Hearing about the lives of wealthy Iranians was new to me, and I was keen to find out more. But before I could go with Ali Reza, I was meeting someone at 7th Tier Square, the commercial district, and it was rush hour in the country with the worst record for road deaths in the world. 28,000 people are killed every year. Now there's one thing that you simply will not be able to avoid when you're in Tehran, and it's this. It looks suicidal, but it is just a fact of daily life. Young or old, Iranian or foreigner. It's just something you have to do. And truth be told, it is absolutely terrifying, but there's a small part to it which is sort of exhilarating. One problem I face here is the language. I speak Arabic, but in Iran, people speak Farsi. The people here are Persians, they're not Arabs. The last time I was here, my interpreter was this man, Mahmoud Daryadel. How are you? What an amazing place you brought me into. I'm good. How are you? Now, relying on translation is fraught anywhere in the world. But here, with this language, the truth can be an elusive thing. I heard it's like one of the hottest summers
in the last
for a long while. Yeah. What's it going to be like for me? Because it's been a while since I've been here.
Yeah, you're going to like it. Everybody, I mean, most of the foreigners, when they come here, they like to stay. They like to marry Iranian girls.
I thought you were going to do that.
And then you can marry 4 times if you dare to do it.
Steady. I've come here to do a story about the Iranian people.
Yeah.
This is actually one of the busiest squares in Tehran. Watch yourself, Mahmoud. This is actually one of the busiest squares in Tehran, and it's peak rush hour, so we're going to have to try and find a cab to work with us for the next week. Salam. Now, whilst he's negotiating with him, taxi drivers in this city are the kings of the road, but their steeds are pretty battered and old. This is the Paykan, and it was bequeathed to Iran from the British, from the time of British influence. But as an inheritance, it's not much because it's got one of the most inefficient and polluting engines on Earth. Let's see how we're getting on.
Okay.
You doing okay?
Yeah.
Good. And what's his name? Majid. It's me, Rageh. Okay.
It doesn't have AC.
That's okay. Anything for the Paykan. Okay. The Paykan is basically a 1960s Hillman Hunter, so I wasn't expecting air conditioning. Let's go before we get locked in. Good man. Excellent. Yeah. God, they're getting close. He's about to hit this guy. Ooh. Seriously. On the right. What is that? Has he ever had accidents though? I mean, in this kind of area?
Nobody hits nobody.
Nobody hits nobody? Yep, the truth can be elusive here, all right. To understand this city, it's best to start in South Tehran. It's always been a poor, working-class district, but it's been enormously influential politically. Power here centered on the Grand Bazaar, and the merchants who ran it, the Bazari, have propped up or undermined every regime for over 200 years. In 1979, they put their financial clout behind the Islamic Revolution. Until recently, this place was the commercial heart of Tehran. And the guys who ran it, the Bazari, wielded real economic power and political influence. But of course today, all of that has changed. Political and economic power has gone elsewhere. And as that's happened, so the market's changed. And today, what it is a veritable subterranean Iranian shopping mall, where Iranians from all over the world and Tehran come to do what they love to do, and that is to shop. So what has changed? Political and commercial power is now in the hands of the clerics, and the religion of Shia Islam dominates everything. Shia regimes are rare. In fact, Iran is the only one in the world. Shias differ from Sunni Muslims in many ways, not least in their worship of martyrs, which Sunnis consider idolatry. But for Shias, the shrines of their martyrs from 1400 years ago are as central to everyday life as the bazaar itself. You know, it is pretty unusual to find such a significant shrine as this, the Imamzadeh Zaid shrine, in the middle of a huge bazaar. But that you should do so in Tehran is no accident, because traditionally the world of the clergy and the commercial world of the bazaar have enjoyed an intimate and powerful relationship that in modern history has been able to make and break governments. Ayatollah Khomeini returned from 16 years of exile to become the leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Bazari had bankrolled him throughout that time, but during the 1980s, the clerics took control of trade and the relationship soured. Not only did the Bazari lose their political influence, they lost 80% of trade to the state. This is the shrine of the son of the fourth Imam. Now, according to Sunnis, an Imam is just someone who leads a congregation into prayer, but it has a completely different meaning according to Shias. They believe that there are only 12 Imams and they are revered as being sinless. The Shias believe that the rightful leadership of the Muslim world, the Khalifs, should have descended down the line of the family of the Prophet Muhammad, starting with his cousin and son-in-law Ali. Now, the 12th Imam, they believe, is yet to appear, and he will come as a Mahdi, a sort of Messiah-like figure, and he'll be joined after a cataclysm on earth by Jesus Christ to dispense justice and peace in the world. But the poor working class in the south don't want to wait until the end of time for justice. It was promised by Khomeini in the 80s and the reform movement in the 90s, and in 2005, President Ahmadinejad got himself elected promising the same. This narrow alleyway is typical of this part of South Tehran. It feels enclosed and private. You don't really get a sense of the neighborhood from street level. But behind this door is something truly remarkable. This is a Zurkhana, which means house of strength. It used to be a center of political power. The men of the Zurkhana provided the muscle on the streets during the Islamic Revolution, but they were sidelined by the Islamic regime, and like the Bazari, their power dwindled. All that keeps it alive today is religion. The best way of describing the Zurkhana is to think of it as a religious gym, but not just one religion. It draws on the pre-Islamic Zoroastrian faith, which is still alive today. And of course, there are many different kinds of Islamic influences, from Sufi mysticism to praise of Shia imams and martyrs. The Zurkhana is rooted in the past. Its membership is falling, and looking around, I could see very few young recruits. One exception is 24-year-old Akbar Nouri, who's maintaining the family tradition. I'm still alive. Got some muscle in my body, not for long. It's coordination that's hard, eh? But these guys twisted as well. I'm just pumping it back and forward, which is hard enough. I'm gonna kill someone. Okay?
Very good. Very good. Okay.
The exercise session always ends in a wrestling bout, and Akbar, a fourth-generation Zurkhana strongman, is the champion of this Zurkhana in Giam district. Giam is one of the oldest working-class districts in South Tehran. People here are conservative in their outlook and unshakable in their faith, but they're also poor. They voted for President Ahmadinejad because he promised them an end to corruption and a greater share in the oil wealth of this country. But they're still waiting. 1 in 7 Iranians lives below the poverty line on less than $1 a day. But there was more to Ahmadinejad's appeal than promises. The working class identified with him. He lived modestly, and as a veteran of the revolution and the Iran-Iraq war, he'd made sacrifices. And nothing symbolizes sacrifice more than this vast cemetery in the south. Akbar and his friends have brought me to Behesht Zahra for a special ceremony. These are the graves of the young martyrs of the Iran-Iraq war, the Basij. So Akbar, where's your uncle's grave?
Boys.
This is your uncle's grave?
دایم بود. خدا بیامرز دایم بود. سال 1360 به شهادت رسید. اون بسیجی بود.
Basiji.
بسیجی.
For Akbar, this weekly ritual is considered a duty, but it's also a source of pride. It commemorates the sacrifice his family has made for Iran. Tapping on the gravestone to communicate with the dead in this way is a telltale sign of Iran's most conservative and superstitious community.
اینا با هم توی منطقه به شهادت رسیدن. خود داییم بود، پسر خاله داییم هم اونجا خاک آقا میثم با هم توی منطقه بودن.
He's just over there. And what do you feel when you consider just the number of young people, your age, your friend's age, who died in the war, that scale of loss?
احساس قلبی اگه بخوام خوشحالم چون همشون رفتن در راه میهنشون دنبال دفاع از ناموسشون رفتن جنگیدن. ولی خب چون از دور ما جمع نیستن جاشون خالیه خب که ناراحت میشن.
But for the country today, is remembering the war still relevant?
بله.
The Iran-Iraq war only ended 18 years ago, so it's a traumatic and defining memory for Iranians today. It began in 1980 and was the longest conventional war of the 20th century. Iran's small army faced a large invading force and defeat looked inevitable, until Ayatollah Khomeini urged his people to join the army of God. 250,000 did, some as young as 13. Iraq was being financed by the USA, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. Iran fought alone. After 8 bitter years of conflict, Iran won and gained a small territorial advantage, but the death toll was huge. 500,000 Iranians were killed. From Shahada station by the cemetery, it's a 40-minute journey under the city to Mirdamar metro station in the north. According to Ali Reza, it's the hub of the music business here. But Ali Reza had never struck me as a typical music journalist, and what he told me explained why.
When I was 14, I left the house and I went to the war. I was in war, Iran and Iraq war. I may not believe it, doesn't really matter. But I was angry. Yeah, I joined up army, army of God. I hated my father. I wanted to go away and not seeing him. So I just went to war, and asked for a gun. They teach me how to shoot, and they gave me gun, but they didn't send me front. And God thanks, I didn't kill anybody.
Slow down. So you traveled by yourself to go to war, and you were 14?
Yeah, by bus. Our job was to collect the bodies, dead soldiers, bring them back. I was there for 4 months and 16 days, but not shooting, just...
You were still just, 14 years old,
I was
collecting
14,
dead
nearly
bodies?
15. Yeah. But somebody need to collect them, It doesn't really matter how old are you. Actually, the war made me the person who I am now. I hate killing people, I hate action movies, I hate all the violence around the world, I love peace, and most importantly, I found music, After war I was so depressed, and 2 or 3 years later, music helped me to find myself.
Is it hard to be a pop star and get your records in shops in Tehran?
Of course it's difficult because it's not like England. You can't go and sign the record company and release your album. It's not like that.
Right.
There you have to give your lyrics first and the songs and everything,
For approval?
Yeah, for approval. And no, if you are, for example, you have no chance to release your album in this country. Not talking about sex, religion, or many times not even your own poetry, you know? And it's difficult. Actually, this is the shop here, and today a guy is coming here. He's a pop singer called Benjamin.
Is he a big star?
Yeah, he is a big star, and it's a big event actually because the pop stars are not going. It's not paparazzi like Europe,
Okay.
Not many. Lots of nice girls. Shall we go in?
منو ببخش که ندیده میگرفتم التماسه اون نگاه
سلام. رگه از BBC اومده. بعد می‌خواست وقتی یه مقدار
Benjamin. Okay.
He said nice to meet you. شما انگلیسیتون خوبه؟
I'm in town for like a couple of weeks, and it'd be really great if I could come and meet him.
Yeah. Talk to him on the phone or?
Well, yeah, I'd like to meet him. I mean, after the record shop, maybe in his studio or at his office or the office of his manager. I'll get a number for him.
Let him do his job.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
I was pushing it, but I wanted to know how could Benjamin make pop songs if he wasn't allowed to mention sex or teenage rebellion?
Would you write about him?
Hi, how are you doing? Rageh is the manager of my magazine I'm working with. He's a real
You're the editor of the magazine he works for.
By the way, what are you doing in Iran?
Well, I'm spending time here, and I'm doing a documentary looking at the lives of people in Tehran. And I want to try and meet people from all different walks of life to find out the stories in the city.
You mean you are on Mission Impossible?
Don't say that. Come on.
It's a difficult
It's a, no, of course, yeah, no, it is. It's there's a lot of perceptions. I mean, that we have about Iran, about Iranian society, and I want to see it. I'm determined to see it in a completely different way.
Okay. By the way, you are invited to our magazine anytime that you want to
Really?
come.
Yeah, you should come.
No, I'd love
We
to.
have an editorial every Saturday.
Ali Reza promised me I'd get an interview with Benjamin, but I'd have to be patient. Benjamin was a big star. His album sales had already hit 20 million.
You're gonna come Saturday.
Yeah, no, to the editorial meeting. Definitely, definitely. No, that
you
would be
guys,
really great.
actually, you get on with each other well, I guess.
It's really great to meet you.
And
You can
this
write
is
a report to us.
For the magazine? Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, I'll come on Saturday and talk to you about it.
Okay, I will wait for you.
Okay.
This was a great opportunity. Writing an article for a youth magazine was bound to open doors for me, but I'd never written exclusively for teenagers before. Then, heading back to my hotel, I ran straight into the Tehran I had reported on, and a huge traffic jam. It took a while to get through the crowds and into Palestine Square. This was a small but spontaneous demonstration aimed at the USA. Iranians like American culture. What they hate is its politics, and especially its sponsorship of Israel. So whenever the Israeli-Palestinian conflict boils over, it's the great Satan America that gets the blame. In the crowd, I caught a glimpse of an old friend. She's a photojournalist I'd met covering the fall of Saddam Hussein. This is Nusha Tavokalian. Nusha has not only broken the mold, a woman working in a traditionally male preserve, but at 24 years old is one of Iran's youngest and most talented photojournalists.
I mean, have you come down on speculation or have you...
Normally I don't come to demonstration.
Good to see you. Right.
Nusha was busy on assignment and we arranged to meet up later.
Do you really think that the majority of people in this country or this city feel as strongly about this as you do?
I believe more than maybe 80%.
But it's a city of 12 million people. It's not that big a demonstration. That's what I'm saying.
That's right. Jum'ah or weekend, it's going to be more than what it is.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions?
That's it?
Yeah, thank you. Done with USA! 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 Done with USA!
What a lovely place.
Thank you.
Really nice.
Good. It's just busy time. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's nice.
So how did other photographers, male photographers, treat you when they saw you?
I never had problem with any newspaper or something. Just one time they kicked me out because I had I went to abroad. Yeah, exactly.
Just for getting a nose star?
Yes.
Just for that?
Because I was going to president's office to take picture and like all the bodyguards, they were looking, but it was so small. It was not really big, but they didn't like it. And they said, take it out or, go. So I will go.
Kept the ring.
Exactly.
Left the job.
Yeah.
What fresh perspectives are you trying to bring to Iranian photography?
I saw like Bush saying we were like part of axis of evil, and suddenly something came to my mind. Okay, I should show the life of that woman who lives in the country who's part of axis of evil, and my big project started. It's like women in axis of evil.
So can you show me some of these photos?
Yeah.
Sit here.
Yeah.
Oh, look. And these are all from, as you say, from Iran, from Iraq?
Yeah, from Iran, and these are the portrait I did about Mother of Martyrs.
Right.
And it's about Mother.
Yeah. But I like this one.
I just wanted to show to, the foreign country that Iran is not that dark that they think, especially in women issues.
How can I get into the lives of Iranian women? Because I'm writing an article for this youth magazine, and this is one subject that I really want to write about. What's your advice to me?
I know one of the most successful businesswomen in Iran. She's like a really tough woman,
I'd love to meet her.
Yeah,
I'd love both of us to go.
Yeah, of course, yeah, we go. I can.
Think she'd be happy to be
Yeah,
interviewed?
of course. She's really nice woman. She's great.
No, that'd be great if you could help me. Nusha decided the first thing I needed to do was to meet some teenagers. She took me to Tandis, a glitzy shopping mall in the north. After just 20 minutes in Tandis, I was discovering an Iran I'd never seen before.
ما هم هیچ مشکلی تقریبا جوونا ندارن. یه مشکلی هست ولی اون چنان که فکرش میشه و حرفش از قدیم مونده نه.
He says like we have normal life, and we can dress up as we like and the style, and it's not the way that foreigner thinks about us,
مثلا بعضی کارا نشون میدن فقط میرن قسمت مشکل‌دار رو می‌بینن یا مثلا قسمتی که مثلا همچین پرچمو دارن آتیش میزنن.
BBC channel, they come to Iran and they just film the demonstration and burning flags, and then whole world they will see it, and then they will have the idea of Iran is like that, but it's not like that, he says.
Can you only wear that inside here? Could you wear it outside on the streets?
مشواره که داری میتونی بیرون بپوشی کسی اذیتت نمیکنه یا فقط مثلا جاهایی که یکم.
نه خب طبیعتاً اگه مثلا یه کسی ببینه خب اصولاً تذکر میدن ولی
Somebody see it outside like police or something, they will not do something, they just say take it out.
I'm really confused because one moment you're at a demonstration where, flags of America and Israel being burnt. The next moment I'm here talking to guys with studs in their ears. I'm presuming they're going to be doing military service.
یکی برام خیلی جالبه که گوشواره و لبتون رو سوراخ کردین و شاید سربازی هم برین مثلا با یه جا بجنگین.
همونجوری که نمیگم آمریکایی‌ها بدن یا خوبن من راجعش قضاوت نمی‌کنم ولی اگه وار بخوام مثلا به خانواده مردم ما بالاخره به خاک ما وارد شن خب هر جوونی
I don't have any problem with Americans, but of course we will offend our country, but we don't have any problem with US, no problem.
When people say, we have the kind of things that you do in the West, or things are getting better, I'm trying to balance that with the huge numbers of other restrictions and the battles that people are facing for freedoms as well.
Let me tell you something. We have culture problem, and our culture, little by little, it's gonna change. Look at that. Yeah, if like my brother some years ago, he would do like that, my father would do like kick him out from house. But look at now,
Can you tell me what's it like being a young woman in Iran?
It is restricted outside, but generally it depends on the family. How restricted is your family?
Right. And is that part of being in an Islamic republic, or is just part of the culture of the country?
It's part of this community. That's how it's got here. They restricted people so much, they're bursting in other ways.
What kind of ways?
Bad ways. Drugs, sex, worse than other countries.
Really? You think
Really.
Why are people searching for this modern fashions, modern styles?
I think it's normal. Everything, I think, is up to date with all of the world.
Really?
Really. For example, you don't know what happens in the homes, in the parties.
It's a very different life.
Yes,
very different.
I think it's better than the Europe or America or everywhere
Social life
like
inside
that.
the
Yes.
house. Why is it that, a lot of young people are wanting to have cosmetic surgery done in Iran? Because that's very widespread and it's very normal. You've
Yes,
had
it's
an
normal.
operation.
In Iran, the cosmetic surgery or, for example, beauty surgery is very normal.
How many of your friends, would you say have also had, different kinds of surgery, cosmetic surgery?
Most of them.
Really?
Really, most of them.
It's just the culture is gonna change, It's not about government. It's
It's not ascribing every single thing of like the hijab or not being able to do this just because it is the Islamic Republic.
Exactly, these Islamic things is just make it like, wow, in Iran because it's Islamic country, young people or women, they cannot do that kind of thing. But it's just, So what? You think
I've seen a lot of empty swimming pools, that's what I'm saying.
You think in Iran women, they go to swimming
I'm
pools?
just saying I've seen a lot of empty swimming pools in town.
Well, I was going to have to take Nusha's word on the swimming pool scene in Tehran. But what I could see was that North Tehranis lead luxurious lives. In fact, this city has more plastic surgery than Los Angeles. If it wasn't for the hijab, this could be LA. Saturday, the start of the working week in Iran, and Cherchera magazine's weekly editorial meeting. In Iran, satellite TV is banned, but everyone watches it, and it's putting newspapers out of business. But this magazine is bucking the trend. It has a healthy circulation of 100,000 that rivals many UK national papers. The editor, 24-year-old Bozogmir, needs a staff of 40 young reporters to cover the ground.
I'd like to get everybody's advice here, and yours. I mean, what I'd like to do, I know we haven't talked it through yet, is to write an article about young women, living and working as young women in Tehran today.
You can't see just woman, you need to see the man as well, because what make woman that way is mostly the acting of man in this country.
Islamish way for girlfriend, boyfriend.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I know Mother's Day is coming up, in Iran. And I want to write the article around that peg, but looking at it in a very contemporary way.
You can go with this idea to buy a gift for her mother.
There is an irony, though. It's only the men who seem to be doing the talking at the moment. Because what?
Because it is Iran, man wants to talk. Only man wants to talk.
Tell me, give me, sorry, I didn't get your name.
My name is Shermin Naderi, Shermin. Yes.
So what advice would you give me then, Shermin? Tell me. The real
I don't know. I don't want to advise you, but I think I want you don't go to normal woman in Iran. Please go to some special woman, I think.
Really?
Yes.
Like women who are quite prominent, who are perhaps some role models.
Yes.
And what advantages they had and what disadvantages they faced, maybe.
Yeah, there are lots of interesting topics that we can suggest you, but we know you cannot cover them. For example, 2 weeks ago, there was a demonstration down there in the square, and we cannot write even a single word on that.
Okay.
Just keep in touch with me to just guide you about the red lines, about the connection.
Okay. All right.
What Bozogmir meant by red lines was censorship, and that could mean trouble because the red lines are by no means clear-cut.
I think if I'm going to get this article published, I'm going to have to learn to do what Iranian journalists do, and that's navigate my way through these red lines, because they're blurred. For example, I know I can't write about how Iranians walk their dogs, which are considered to be unclean animals in Islam, even though I've seen that for myself. I can't write about how I've seen young Iranian boys and girls holding hands in the city. And I can't write about how many Iranians watch foreign satellite TV stations, unless, of course, I condemn the practice. And I think the way that the system works is that it doesn't just rely on the laws. It relies on writers censoring themselves in order to avoid a confrontation with the authorities.
I got the inspiration for my Mother's Day article from an announcement in the Iranian press, the opening of the Resalat tunnel joining two major crowded motorways. It's one of President Ahmadinejad's pet projects and a major piece of civic engineering. It's opening on the eve of Mother's Day, and 7 newlywed couples will be the first to drive through it.
Tomorrow is actually Fatima Zahra's birthday. Now, Fatima Zahra was the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad, and the Islamic Republic has used that birthday and turned it into a celebration of all things of Mother's Day. So the opening of this tunnel has been pretty much tied into that celebration.
But the hook for my story is the drive-through of the newlyweds.
The bus carrying the newlyweds has just arrived, and what's amazing about it is just the extravagant and careful stage management of this. It's not only diplomats, it's not only army top brass, the whole press pack, but actually they're going to be getting in these cars, they're garlanded with flowers, and they're going to inaugurate this desperately needed new tunnel for Tehran. And I suppose in some ways, it's Tehran's take on a tunnel of love. And I'm not going to go and ram the camera in their face, but it just is quite amazing just how carefully constructed this whole affair is.
And that was a worry, because I was busking this story. With all this security and a huge press pack in attendance, what chance did I have to get my interview with the brides?
I just want to see him greet the newlyweds. Please, come on. Please, go on. For just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Now, the reason for the huge numbers of press here has less to do with the brides than with the star guest. I had no idea that President Ahmadinejad was actually opening this tunnel in person. All these people are hoping for is a few shots and a few words with the president himself.
I can actually see him now, he's just arrived. Very smiley, very friendly. Here he comes, and he's got his famous seersucker jacket on. This is Rageh Omar, Somali. Nice to meet you. From England, from BBC as well. Nice to meet you, thank you.
I was departing from my own agenda by glad-handing with the president, but old habits die hard. Meanwhile, my quarry was slipping away from me. I couldn't get anywhere near them.
The president's giving each of the couples a little pep talk, especially the men, as they go through and shake his hand. Probably some kind of a marital advice or something, I don't know.
And then events started to overtake me. Security guards bustled me over to pray with the president while they were shoving other reporters back. It seemed the president's publicity machine had taken a shine to me. Yep, I was being spun, Iranian style. But I have to admit it, I'd brought it on myself with that handshake. Now, I was praying for an exit strategy.
Well. Well, I was just pulled over and by his security asked me, would you like to come and pray? And I'm like, Salam, Rageh. What's his name? Muhammad Hassan. Tell him congratulations. And what's your wife's name? Could you ask your wife how she feels, if that's okay?
It's good, it's not bad.
Congratulations.
It's good, it's not bad. And that's the only quote I got. Because, as I'd been warned, in Iran, man wants to talk, only man wants to talk. But I kind of felt bad for these young couples spending their wedding day inside a tunnel.
Thank you. Thank you, you're welcome. Congratulations. Well done. Well, it was a completely amazing and quite a surreal night. It started off, in a bewildering way, thinking it was going to be really exciting. And then it just became quite crazy. I was suddenly beckoned out of the crowd, asked to sort of pray next to the president, which I was a bit wary of at first, but it's ended up in a real celebration to mark the birthday of Fatima Zahra tomorrow. That's why this tunnel is being opened today.
Today is Mother's Day, and I'm joining thousands of Tehranis shopping for that last-minute present. But even mothers in Iran were told they had a special role to play in this revolutionary society.
One thing that I noticed walking around Tehran is just how young the people of this city are. In fact, 2/3 of Iran's 70 million people are under the age of 30. Immediately after the revolution, Ayatollah Khomeini urged Iranian society to produce the young men and women who would help build the Islamic Republic. And this country saw a massive population explosion. The young people I see walking around Tehran are the children of the revolution.
گفتی با تو بودم یعنی زنده موندم الان میگی عمرم تموم شد.
Wherever you go in Tehran, you do notice huge murals of religious leaders and martyrs to the Iran-Iraq war. They're a feature, but they're also fading. And what's screaming for the attention of ordinary Iranians are billboards for all manner of consumer goods.
به عشق تو اسیرم میگفتی بی تو من میمیرم حالا میگی فکراتو کردی نظرت عوض شد تعبیر مهربونی عشق آسمونی چه زود و چه ساده اسمش عوض شد که باشی.
If you like shopping, you're going to love Tehran because it's actually quite well organized. Different districts specialize in certain types of products. And 7th Tier Square specializes in manteaus, 3/4 length jackets which are a substitute for the chador and which most women in Tehran wear. Now, the authorities recently tried to introduce a regulation length manteau. They hit the shops, but there were few takers.
And that's because young people everywhere faced with a uniform invariably want it shorter and tighter.
Welcome to Tehran's book world. It looks like an amusement arcade, but it's actually full of bookshops serving the students of Tehran University just across the road. This is the academic center of the city, and Iranians care hugely about education. Families spend an enormous amount of money, often going into debt to give their kids a better education. The literacy rate is over 90%, comparable to Britain's. But Iranian students haven't just spent their time concentrating on their grades. They're amongst the most politically active in the world. They were at the heart of the Islamic Revolution in 1979 and the pro-reform movements which followed in the 1990s.
I think I've got to grips with the geography of this city now, and its politics and economics. But to write my article, I've got to go deeper if I'm to fully understand this complex place. I'm heading north to interview 3 special women. I need to find out what life is really like for professional women navigating Iran's maze of regulations. In the wealthiest part of North Tehran lives Nazila Noabashri. She's a very successful businesswoman who runs her own transport company.
The impression that people have in the West is that, 1979 Islamic Revolution and the clock stopped right there and then for women in all aspects. Is that true?
Not at all. Not at all. It's actually vice versa. Look at the number of students in Iranian universities. 60% are girls. A lot of things have changed. The women who went into the streets, like that woman who's holding a Kalashnikov, she was not going to go back home and cook for her husband and be happy with that. So we moved on. I mean, women really moved forward. I mean, you have millions of women earning a living for their families right now.
What are the restrictions that you face as a businesswoman because you're a woman?
Well, it depends on how lucky you get. Certain things like the language you use. I use an entirely different language when I speak to our international partners. But with men in the country, I try to be very, very polite, very, very sort of forbidding even sometimes, so that others can, so that they don't get any other ideas, stuff like that. And then they don't believe that you're the boss or you're employing all these different people. But once you get to those barriers, then the respect is there. I've never ever been disrespected in this country because of what I do.
But to get respect for who she is, a woman in Iran, Nazila still had to adopt different guises. Ghazal Chagini is the International Liaison Officer for a charity, a non-governmental organization or NGO run for children with cancer.
At the last year of high school, I was working hard to enter university, in which I was studying cell and molecule biology in university. I realized that I am diagnosed with cancer myself. So I started to face the difficulty of the treatment and coping with this disease. So I realized exactly what is happening to these children.
What it is like to be a young woman working and living in Tehran today?
When I compare what we are doing here with China, India, or even African countries, or even European countries and Northern America countries, I was so satisfied. I realized that we are doing a good job here.
So you're saying that, it gives you meaning?
I needed something satisfy my soul. I needed something to feel that I'm changing something.
Ghazal is changing something, but she fears for the future as so many of her contemporaries quit the country for a life abroad. Mona Zandi is a film director. She's just completed her first feature-length film and is awaiting the verdict of the Iranian film censors.
On Friday afternoon is about rape. And Sogand is a girl, 15 years old, and she was raped by their uncle. And she has a baby from her uncle. And the police take Sogand to prison.
I asked you about things being worse over the last year. You think that's true?
Yes.
How much?
And women, yes.
Dramatically so? Or?
Every Iranian filmmaker's challenge with rules. Rules is very different and it's very difficult because now the government wants to make everything, not just film, everything Islamic subject. And it is very difficult for everybody. For example, when you are painting, when you are a writer, and when you are a filmmaker, you can't make free your images.
Mona is struggling with the rules and traditions of her society. Amazingly, women here can be harassed for simply driving a car, and they're banned from driving motorcycles altogether. Professionals in the north are growing impatient with all of these petty restrictions. But in the south, men in particular are more reluctant to embrace change.
For lunch to my house today.
I'd love to. Really?
And then, yeah.
Well, when we get through, yeah. Really?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Where do you live?
کجا زندگی می‌کنی؟
من طرف شرق تهران پارس.
Oh, here I live in Tehran Park. But he said he should get permission from his wife. He's going to call her now.
He's a naughty man. This man. Oh, that's fantastic.
Mahmoud's banter with Majid tells you a lot about male chauvinism in Tehran. It's the norm. And yet, women are also revered, particularly on this day, and particularly in the south of the city. This is the festival commemorating the death 1300 years ago of Fatima Zahra, the Prophet's daughter and wife of Imam Ali. For Shia Muslims, the rightful leaders of Islam, the 12 Imams, descend from these two highly revered people. And it's the women of South Tehran who play the leading role in this festival. At the entrance to the bazaar, I spotted my wrestler friend Akbar. He was busy organizing this procession to the mosque. It was time I found out what it was like for him living in Tehran.
Akbar, could I have a chat with you?
Akbar lives with his parents, brother and sister in Giam, a maze of narrow alleyways.
So this is home.
Thank you.
What's it like being young in Tehran? How would you describe it to someone who hasn't been here? What's life like?
واسه یه قریب باید یه خود حواسی جمع کن تو تهران میچرخه با هر کسی رفاقت نکنه خیلی سخته تو تهران کار کردن زندگی کردن یه خود سخت شده باید طرفش رو بشنافه اطمینان کنه به رفیقش یه جوری باید حواسی جمع باشه دیگه خب دشمن زیاد داره آدم کسی بخواد سالم زندگی کنه دشمن زیاد داره
What kind of enemies? What do you mean by that?
خیلی اصلا چشم ندارن آدم ببینن یه جوری هم نقشه واسه پول آدم میکشن نقشه واسه جون آدم میکشن بستگی دارن طرفت کی باشه با کی رفاقت میکنی چه جوریه یهو مثلا تو یه سری مسائل دخالت میکنه زندگی در دست میدادم کارش از دست میده جوونیش از بین میره راهش از بین میره خلاف میره درست میره آدم باید خیلی حواس جمع باشه
Akbar, life as you describe it in Tehran sounds pretty difficult and pretty dangerous. Has things got so bad in Tehran recently?
جمعیت زیاد شده مردم جوون نیستشون بیکارن فقر یه خورده فحشا داره میکنه واسه همینه که خود زندگی سخت شده تهران
Do you think that the government has failed to answer the needs of people in places like your neighborhood?
خب دولت میتونه خیلی کارا بکنه واسه جوونا میتونه انجام بده که بتونه باز راحت تر بشن زندگیشون راحت تر بشه
Would you describe yourself as, being in any way political? Do you take care about sort of government and politics and that kind of thing?
No.
Not in any way? Why? Why?
For someone who says he's not political, Akbar's comments were politically charged. And some of the problems he described could be found just round the corner. One downside to Iran's population boom is the exploitation of children. With wages close to the poverty line, kids are turned out to live on the streets and are exploited in sweatshops. NGOs like Children of Labour save as many kids as they can.
So do you have a regular class? You teach them all the time?
Classes change. It's not all the time.
Right. Are you happy here, Shukriya? What do you want to be when you grow up?
میخوای بزرگشی چی کاره بشی؟ دکتر.
Doctor. Very nice to meet you. How old are you?
چند سالته؟ من 13. 13 years old.
13 years old. And how did Shukriya come to Children of Labour?
Shukriya working, sewing and knitting.
Sewing, knitting, sewing and knitting.
Yes. And so they know that some association in Tehran, they take the children and they come here.
Okay. Do you think that the problems facing children in Tehran, are they getting worse or are they getting better?
Actually, these children has got a lot of problem because you see the society agree with the work of children, and so because of that, they have got a lot of problem in Tehran.
As yet, there is no legislation forbidding child labor in Tehran. In fact, it's essential to the economy. But even existing legislation hasn't stopped Iran's other big problem, drugs. My taxi driver Majid knew of a rehab clinic in the center of town. This is Aftab, an NGO dedicated to the treatment and prevention of drug abuse. The Iranian authorities estimate there are 2 million drug addicts in Iran. The unofficial figures are 10 times that, and that's out of a population of 70 million. In my journey all over town, from every section of society, I've been hearing about this problem.
More than 80% of patients that we admit here, they are addicted to crack. Most of them are poor.
But you're seeing, drug use is widening amongst middle classes as well, wealthy.
But as I told you, most of them are poor. But some of them belong to middle class of the society, and some of them belong to the rich grade of society. But in the rich people, the crystal is more common than this.
Crystal,
yes. Crystal is this.
Is it crystal meth, you mean?
Yes.
That's hugely increasing in use in the West.
Yes. And
so
this is pipe, the instrument that they use.
So what do you do with
smoke
it?
crystal.
Okay, you smoke it, all right.
Yes, smoke with this. And this is so expensive, do you know?
Really?
1 gram of crystal costs about 100,000 tomans, and it's about $100.
Right.
1 gram of heroin in Iran costs $8, and it costs $100, 10 times and 12 times the heroin.
So that's the drug of choice for wealthy people?
Yes.
I'd heard about drugs north and south of the city, but now I was heading to a quiet suburb in the east to meet Majid's family.
Merci.
You just take it.
What's wrong with that?
That's what we do. We usually make tarof. When somebody wants to, offer you something, we want it, but we reject it. Say, no, but I want
See,
it.
that's what that whole thing was about. What's it called?
Tarof.
Tarof.
Yeah, but you guys just take it. That's
well, he offered it to me. What is it exactly? It looked very, very elaborate. So can you tell when someone is
it's a kind of politeness that we try to have, but sometimes it's very bothering that, you want something, the guy is offering you say no, we reject it. He said no, insist, you should take it. I said no, you should take it.
I gotta remember that.
And sometimes you go to a restaurant, you say no, I pay. The guy says no, I pay, and they fight.
This was worrying. Had I really been invited for a meal, or was it this tarof politeness thing? Had I been too eager to accept? Anyway, it was too late now. I was either in for a meal or a major embarrassment, and I could see that Majid and Mahmoud were enjoying my confusion.
خانم کجایی؟ یه رفتی You have yogurt with it?
Yeah, you could have yogurt. This is korma sabzi.
Okay. Well, let me. You want some? Oh, that's good. Okay. I'll have some. After you. Sue. Let's get some. Okay. It was wonderful. Thank you very much. You have a lovely family, Majid.
یه خانواده خیلی خوبی داری.
برای غذا.
ما یه زندگی خیلی درب و داغونی داشتیم.
He said that some years ago I had a very bad life.
Why?
Why?
من 24 سال اعتیاد داشتم، اعتیاد به مواد مخدر داشتم.
I was addicted to drugs for 24 years.
بعد دیگه پارس در حدود 14 ماه پیش دیگه به نقطه اوجش رسیده بود که شروع کردم به ترک کردم.
And 14 months ago I decided to quit and I did it.
Who were you addicted to?
به چی مطلب بودم؟
24 سال که از حشیش شروع شد به کراکم قطع شد.
I started 24 years ago from hashish and ended in crack.
از خب همه چی استفاده کردم کلی هر چی که
used everything in this year.
She's drinking melon juice.
جانم چی؟
یه خوب
Being amongst this lovely family really brought those drug statistics home to me. If a guy like Majid could get hooked and practically lose everything, it could happen to anyone. I finally got the call from Benjamin's manager, Mr. Rajapur, to look in on a recording session. Benjamin is cutting a new song, but for some reason, this one won't be released in Iran.
منو ببخش که ندیده میگرفتم التماسه.
But tell me about this song that Benjamin's singing now. What is it? What are the lyrics? What are they saying?
میگه راجع به آهنگ بنیامین توضیح بدیم، راجع به مثلا کلامش دیگه.
ابراز ندامت یک مردیه که به عشقش خیانت کرده.
Cannot translate.
Try.
Forgive me.
Forgive me,
yes.
Why? Because the person is...
Yes, about what I have done. Something bad to you. Forgive me, please forgive me.
So
yes.
Someone is just asking their, lover to forgive them or something like that?
Yes.
It wasn't the translation that was bothering Nima, it was the subject of the song.
No. Tell me, come on, don't hide it. Oh no, go on. So he's saying, forgive me, he's hurt his lover or something, right?
Yes.
And why? Because he's gone off with someone else?
Sometimes.
Okay, I'm getting the drift of this now. So I mean, can pop stars sing about these subjects? I mean, will they get through? I know that you have to get your lyrics approved and the band has to submit their songs. Do these subjects get through easily? I mean, the censors?
نه یه موضوع اجتماعی در همه ممالک دنیا هست.
No. It's not possible.
اونا مجوز میدن. ولی اگه یه موضوعی قرار باشه سکسی باشه، شما برای اون 1% قرار باشه یک موضوع سکسی درست کنی، موسیقی چوری نیست که بقیه نشنونش، که CD میشه همه میشنونش.
I'm gonna get this out of you. Tell me what...
Everything which is logical will be acceptable, and the other not.
Well, clearly I wasn't going to get a straight answer, but I finally understood the lyrics. And as far as I can make out, that's Farsi for, I'm sorry, I'm having an affair. Maybe Benjamin would be more candid.
There are big differences of being a pop star here than, say, in the West. That you do have to have your lyrics and music clear. Do you find those kind of things holding you back? Do you find them frustrating?
من خودم تا حالا خیلی بهش برخورد نکردم، به خاطر اینکه خودم مستقیم با این موضوعات درگیر نیستم. معمولا وقتی یه کاری رو میخوام بسازم با دوستانم مدیر برنامه مشورت میکنم، به یه نتایجی میرسیم، بعدش دیگه من بی اطلاعم که چه اتفاقی میفته، ولی فکر نمیکنم نه.
I had no luck with Benjamin either. Clearly, the only person who could tell me how things worked around here was Mr. Rageh, the manager. If I could get him alone, I think he'd talk. But first, I had a deadline to meet.
Our correspondent Tim Franks has spent the day on Israel's border with Lebanon.
As I was working on my magazine article that night, dramatic news was breaking on the world service.
What you can hear around me is the sound of the outgoing artillery from the Israelis pounding away into the hills of Lebanon.
This story would set Tehran alight.
Everybody, all my family died in Lebanon. Everybody, all my friends, my house gone, everything gone. Please help Lebanon. Please help Lebanon. Please help
Tehran was just waking up, but I'd been up for hours struggling with my article. All around the walls of this tea house are scenes from the rich heritage of Persian poetry. Great inspiration, but here I can also get the more common aids for writer's block, caffeine and nicotine. I'd had such great interviews with these women. I'd got a glimpse into 3 very different worlds. Somehow, it all had to be crammed into a 2-page article that would mean something to Iranian teenagers.
No, I'm not sure I'm a role model, but I like people telling their children that they can be something else than a good wife or a good nurse. And I like to employ girls. And once you hire a girl, she does her own typing, she does her own fax, her own coffee and tea. When you employ a man in this country, it's supposed to hire a secretary, a cook, and a butler, something like that.
Most of my friends left Iran, and if we all leave our country, then who will change this place? We have to stay here, we have to struggle, we have to prove that all the things that are saying about us, it is not true. And I'm so glad that I'm here. I know that something will get better.
I don't know exactly, but I think if we limit everything in the society to make Islamic subject, future is dark. But if change this idea, what's the meaning? امکان داره. Possible, yes, everything is possible.
It's 12 o'clock and time for my interview with Mr. Rageh, Benjamin's manager. He couldn't refuse me when I told him it was my birthday today. I think I'm getting the hang of this tar-off business. Have you ever heard of a guy called Simon Cowell? He's a very famous pop entrepreneur like yourself. He creates musicians and takes them to complete stardom around the world. And you are the Simon Cowell of Tehran. You know, of all the people before I came to Tehran, the last person I expected to meet was someone like you. You know, a typical, really successful pop entrepreneur.
این همکار ما تو انگلستان هست، اونم اینه که ایشون هیچ شاید چارچوب خاصی نداشته باشه بخواد ستاره درست کنه، ولی من توی چارچوب‌های مقررات اجتماعیم ستاره درست می‌کنم.
Describe to me, please, what those kind of restrictions that you're under are compared to a Western pop entrepreneur.
یعنی شعرشون در مورد مسائل خیلی خیلی هات سکسی باشه یا قوانین جامعه من چیز نداشته باشه، همخونی نداشته باشه.
But do you not feel that this holds you back?
No.
Wow, this is a big billboard. So you organized all that, huh?
Salam. This kid.
Yeah, Benjamin t-shirt.
Benjamin t-shirt on. You're everywhere. Did you set that up?
No,
I'm joking. That's amazing. Wow. You know, if you could design the perfect band for the Islamic Republic of Iran today that would be hugely successful, what kind of band would they be?
من دارم یه گروهی در ایران طراحی میکنم که همه نوازنده‌اش دخترن. درام، پرکاشن، گیتار الکتریک، گیتار بیس، ویولونیست، نمیدونم همه چی، گیتار آکوستیک، همه دخترن. بعد خواننده هاش چند تا دخترن.
So, is this an all-girl band? I don't understand.
Only girls.
Is that allowed? Because I understood that the lead singers of bands could not be girls.
گفتم بهتون یه گروه دخترم میخونن. مثلا 4 تا دخترن با هم میخونن. مثلا شما یه گروه دارید مثل باند. دخترن ویولون میزنن. گروپ سینگ همه دخترن. برداشت بدی از قوانین مملکت ما شده. ما قوانین مملکتمون خیلی راحت تر از بسیاری از کشورهای دنیا.
Merci.
Mr. Rajapour dropped me off near the top of Valley Asa Street, a short walk to Park Melat, where I'd arranged to meet Majid and his family.
Now, for thousands of Tehranis, the weekend leisure time means heading for green spaces. But the truth is that there is less and less green space in Tehran because as more and more people flood into the city and buildings are going up, local parks are being wiped out. And of course, there are no nightclubs and there are no discos and there are no bars here either. So it means for families, all they've got is to come to main parks like this.
This would be my last night in Tehran. Majid and the whole family were giving me a farewell party. I'd become really fond of them.
No, I'm sad. This is a birthday party. Thank you for your hospitality.
Okay.
Bon appetit.
Ali, don't eat them all. You know how much Hope to see you again and
I hope so too. I think they'll have a terrific time.
Now, this is a truly rare moment in the life of this city because it's not very often that you can stand in the middle of a main avenue or any road for that matter and see it almost completely empty of traffic. Now, I'm halfway between Tehran University, which is just up there where people are gathering for Friday prayers, and Palestine Square, where people are supposed to be turning up for a demonstration suddenly declared by the government against Israel. I am surprised because outside of Palestine, I rarely come across crowds of this size on a protest against Israel.
This demo was a far cry from the first one I'd witnessed on this trip. People looked genuinely angry, and there were a lot of uniforms here. I'd heard reports alleging that Iran was supplying men and munitions to the resistance in Lebanon, and judging by the Hezbollah supporters here, it seemed entirely possible. All morning I'd felt tension building up in the city, and I was glad I was leaving tonight. This was clearly a popular demonstration, but you could also sense the government's hand in it. This demo was getting saturation coverage by Iranian TV. Iranians have constantly told me that they object to always being portrayed ranting in demonstrations, but here, that's just what was being orchestrated. Walking away from the demo, I decided to climb above all this noise and clear my head. I had to cut through the rhetoric so I didn't lose sight of the real issues facing Iranians in their own country.
The murals of the clerics in Tehran might seem faded, but they are still very potent images. And it's hard to come here without feeling to some degree that Big Brother is watching you. The red lines in Iran are extremely broad and very precarious. If you can navigate your way through them, you'll survive. If you can't, it could cost you dearly. There are hundreds of newsstands all over this city, but I've come to this one because I want to do my own straw poll. I see plenty of people looking, but not many buying. And in a city of news junkies, that is unusual. There are many daily national newspapers, but circulation has been falling. And increasingly, Iranians are turning to satellite television and to the internet to get their daily news fix. In fact, Iran has the fourth largest blogging community in the world.
Can a Big Brother state survive the communications revolution? Maybe, but a shackled press cannot. What I sense is that Iranians have lost faith with the printed word.
Hey, what's up, man?
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
You're welcome.
So, how was it?
Well, it was good. I love the title. It was good.
Welcome to Wonderland.
But
it's true enough.
Yes, this expression of Wonderland was wonderful because you just suddenly fall down inside a new society.
Full of very different rules.
Yes.
So tell me from the beginning, I mean, what were the issues that were the red lines that I crossed?
Okay. Here, you said that hijab is a mask.
So what I said in this was people in this vast and ever-changing city feel that the only way they can live their lives is by wearing different masks.
Yes.
From the very beginning, I discovered that for young women in Tehran, this is even more so. They literally have to physically put on different masks.
Yes. This is the problem, because hijab in this country is a value. And we should not say this is a mask or this is a veil.
What I meant is that not literally masks, it's just a different identity. You know, they are one way in the home, they don't have to wear any masks. But when they go out, there are certain restrictions, cultural or, you know, political, that they have to abide by. That's what
Yes.
I meant.
I think we have, in translation, Iranian have different layers or multidimensional characteristics. This was one problem.
Okay.
We should change it.
Anyway, all right.
Here, we have one other problem. Drug addiction, which are taboo in many other Muslim countries, are dealt with openly, but women cannot ride motorcycles. That's true. But you should change the sentence. You should say, this is a country when every motorcycle rider are men.
Right.
It's a kind of paraphrasing.
But why is it a problem if you were to publish the sentence? There are many problems being openly dealt with, but where, on the other hand, women cannot ride motorcycles.
You should know that the government tries to show that women in the society has the same right as men. So you can explain the society, but not talking about the restrictions. You should not talk about restrictions, limitations, these kind of things.
Okay. Take me through the rest of it.
You said that Iranians are far more angry about the political situation in the country, blah, blah, blah. We've changed it. Iranians who are not satisfied with some situation inside the society. We should not say that there are people who are against the government. This is a red line.
Wow.
You've crossed the red line by mentioning government. But since you said that foreign powers cannot impose anything to this country, you can say that, okay, you give 1 score to them, so we will give you a score. That's
okay,
it.
that's it. Is it? What would have happened if you'd just taken a flyer and published it the way it was?
First, the cultural minister, some clerks there would call us and say, you have these problems. And if you can prove that we didn't mean to attack the government, there's no problem. But if you cannot, you will be banned.
I left the magazine with a lot of respect for Bozorgmir. I could see how tough his job was and how hard his magazine was working to get the truth to their young readers. I realized in his own way, he told me a lot about life here.
Salam.
Salam.
Cherchera?
Yes, Cherchera.
Here it is. Here it is. Welcome to Wonderland, and it's on the front cover. You know, I'm actually much more excited and proud about having got this published in Tehran than many other articles I've had published in the UK. But there is a twist, actually, and I was tipped off about it, and that's the fact that Nousha's photographs for the feature have had to be changed because, for example, this one of Nazila, in the original, her forearms were shown, but it's been doctored now so that the dress covers her forearms. And this one of Ghazal, in the original, her hair was showing, and this one's been doctored so that the hijab covers her hair. And it's just another fact of life of being a journalist here. And it's a reminder also that journalists don't only have to be careful about the words they use, they have to scrutinize every single image that they publish. Merci.
Merci.
I've reached the end of Valley Asr Street, and I've loved my journey through this city. I've met some fantastic people. They've been hugely dynamic, energetic, and warm. And when they've welcomed me into their homes, they've described their society as a labyrinth, as an enigma within a puzzle that is difficult for foreigners to penetrate. I may have only scratched the surface, but I've glimpsed some of the problems that they face. Some are just down to living in a tough, overcrowded city. Others are the result of living in a conservative Islamic society and under a government that seems to be increasingly out of touch with its own people. But Iranians have a deep love of their country, and they believe that if there is to be change here, it'll be done by them and them alone.
Some time after I'd returned to Britain, I contacted the friends I'd made in Tehran. Bozorgmir's magazine was struggling to survive. They'd had to move out of the offices I'd visited and into smaller premises. They weren't sure whether they could afford to publish past the month's end. Ali Reza's plan to look after his mum was a success. She's in a much better place now, so he's thinking of returning to London's music scene. Majid's 35-year-old Paykan had finally given up the ghost. He was hopelessly in debt after buying another third-hand taxi. Mona's film failed to get past the censors. She had to make several cuts in order to get it shown in Iranian cinemas. The uncensored version has won awards outside Iran. Nousha was called away from Tehran to cover the war in Lebanon. Her assignments are taking her all over the world. She's currently filming in the USA. Mr. Rajapur has taken Benjamin on a tour of Norway and Germany, where I understand he's been a hit with his song about illicit love. Akbar sustained an injury to his shoulder, carrying a huge icon in a religious procession. His wrestling days are over. Ghazal is still working hard on behalf of children with cancer, but is sadly fighting her own battle with the disease, which has returned. Nazila's business was thriving, but since the death of her mother from cancer, has become involved with Ghazal's charity. She was spending more of her time canvassing support and funds for these children.
If you'd like to share your views about this or any other BBC4 programme, go to bbc.co.uk/BBC4 and follow the link to have your say.